Thank you for joining me. This will be my thoughts on The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 5, Self-Help. The episode is rated CVMA, so will this video be? There will be spoilers for the episode and all the ones leading up to it. And like all of those episodes, I absolutely fucking love this one. Yeah, holy shit. Eugene was lying so that he could get protection, and yeah, goddamn, that was a very effective twist. Okay, let's see. So overarching kind of stuff. I really appreciated the flashbacks. At first you just see that he managed to kill a bunch of walkers with, guess they're not big fans of canned food. And, yeah, the, it takes several flashbacks before we get to, yeah. In one of the flashbacks, he finds Ellen and what was it, AJ and something, the Ellen and the kids who were hiding, and they do such a great job because like at first, like the way that she's crouched, you can't tell for sure if she's human or zombie. I was worried that one of the zombies managed to get to her, that if he missed one or one came in or something, and she was maybe feeding on the kids or something. But yeah, she gets up and she looks at him, and the kids look at him, and there's no sense of relief in their eyes. All that is there is fear. They are afraid of him now. Um, I talked about in a video on an earlier episode, about how it is very realistic sometimes, if someone if person A witnesses person B using violence to protect person A might end up afraid of person B instead. And yeah, really appreciate that being acknowledged in media. There's so much media that suggests that they would just be grateful and relieved, and that is true for some, but for a number of people, it's fear. And yeah, as soon as he's asleep, they sneak out. She leaves a message saying, "Don't try to find us." Like, yeah, and then Eugene shows up and needs help, and Abraham does save him from the immediate situation, but then he's about to abandon him. And so we see Eugene almost immediately lie to Abraham. Yeah, very, very effective. And yeah, I don't know if, I'm not entirely sure if Eugene is going to survive. That was a nasty spill. I would not rule out that they straight up, their like book ended the very last and very first time that Abraham and Eugene, yeah, are both alive in the same spot. Yeah, let's see. I really appreciated the dynamics, especially the way that they change over the course of the episode. Um, I know I've said it before, but one of the biggest strengths of this show is the characters, their interpersonal relationships, and reactions to things and such. And yeah, this is one of the episodes that really, utilize them really well. Yeah, I quite appreciated the way that we see some of the attempted trip to Washington, and not really any other. It doesn't cut to one of the other, Rick's survivors or Beth and Carol. Now, I think that might be what there is for like overarching stuff. I guess yes. The flashbacks really help to underline, like, basically Abraham feels the need to be accomplishing something. Like, it's one of those things. Like, ultimately, it's silly because and very human. To be clear, I'm not like judging. I'm saying that's the kind of thing it could happen to any one of us. Because the human brain sometimes, yeah, we didn't really evolve for situations as complicated as we experience in the modern world. Um, yeah, that's we evolved for some specific situations, but our brains have not really kept up with a lot of modern. So sometimes our brains will play tricks like that. It's essentially neurotic. Like, on some level, Abraham feels like if he could just get Eugene to Washington so they can cure everyone, then he'll be able to be with Ellen again. But, it wasn't the zombies that caused her to leave like that. It was his violence, and yeah, I mean, there was that thing in an earlier episode where another character pointed out to him, he basically enjoys the violence. Yeah, um, he is working through the frustration of having lost her. And I don't know, maybe there was... Did she see him enjoy it, or was it just the fact that he was engaging in so much violence? I'm not entirely sure. Um, but that was also very nicely done because, yeah, the fact that there were several seconds where, like, when he's killing the first walker we see him kill in the flashback, um, I we yeah, we realize that it's Abraham, and the person he was killing was indeed a walker. And then the camera, let's see, I pans, I guess, to show there's a bunch of other dead walkers. Yeah, I think that does bring us to... yes. So, scene by scene, I loved that at the start there was, like, the dynamic between Rosita and Abraham. Now that they are back on track, back with the mission, we haven't seen that much. Like, most of the time that we've seen them on the show so far, there has been something preventing them from doing the mission, but now they're on track. It seems like, I mean, they have a car, they fixed it and everything. It should be no problem. So he's happy, and they're just talking about, like, a haircut, and she's like playing with his hair and these things, like, just... yeah, it's really great to see them in a much more happy, comfortable situation. There's even, like, they drive right past a group of walkers, and yeah, none of the walkers are quite fast enough, so they're gonna have to wait for the next time someone drives past to hitchhike. But they don't even, like, it. I don't think Abraham even considers, like, stopping and killing them, even though he clearly does find some enjoyment in killing them. So I think, yeah, and Maggie and Glenn talking about, well, Rick, I don't know, maybe Carol and Daryl got back, and we, the viewer, know that is not what happened. Maybe they're in a car, they're right behind us, we're clearing the path. It's... yeah, because like on some level they do feel bad about this situation. They feel like this is not, they don't want to just like abandon, these people that they've grown really fond of. Um, yeah, I think the yeah. So I am going to comment some on Eugene seeming to be on the autistic spectrum. So before I do so, I want to underline I I say it with love. I have a great fondness for autistic people. I've met a couple dozen. Most of them have been wonderful. So, yeah, what what I'm saying is not judging them. But yeah, um, I'm sorry. I just can't quite remember her name right now. But yeah, you'll know who I'm talking about shortly. Yeah, my wrists are too fucked to check right now, unfortunately. But yeah, she points out about his business in the front, party in the back uh, hair, and she makes a biblical reference, and he picks up on it and runs with it. And that's something, I mean, okay, everybody, that's not purely an autistic thing, but I have noticed that a lot of autistic people, yeah, they love references and like to, yeah, picking up on something like that and just going with it, And yeah, I quite like the thing, Maggie points out, he was a little kooky, wasn't he? And yeah, she has a point about the sort of, the how would anybody possibly know the answer to that riddle? Like it's so specific to his life. Just yeah. Um, I think that might just about cover the yeah. And the thing about it's a way for you to tell everyone that you are not you know what is she? I think she just used the word different, so they didn't outright say, but yeah, she's acknowledging, he is, I would definitely say neurodivergent in some way. Um, Friendly reminder in case, I doubt that the critical drinker is watching, but um, when it's one person, it's called divergent. Diverse is only when there's multiple. An individual cannot be diverse. I just think published writers should know the meanings of such common words. I don't know. But I think, yeah, just she doesn't make a big deal out of it. She just acknowledges you're different. That's not, it's not a bad thing, So that was very nice. Yeah. So the show is so fucking good at this. I found myself really caught up in the they're just driving and it's like they're gonna get there and it's all gonna work out. And then, at first, I thought the reason that the bus crashed was a fuck. I'm sorry, flat. Just a flashback to Transporter 1 and its PG-13. Yeah. Um, yeah. The we do later find out what it was, but yeah, the fact that they drive past this group and then they crash and then the group walks up and opening credits. Jesus Christ, just because suddenly it's not, we saw them pass the group with ease, and we weren't thinking those are definitely going to be dangerous. We were thinking, for once, they actually really don't have any issue with this group of, flesh-eating zombies. Um, I don't know. They like the caveman diet. And we have the, yes. Isn't, am I remembering it right? That like, RFK Jr. is super into, I forget if it's that diet, but there's one of the diets, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the ones you really shouldn't do because you're not actually getting the nutrients, which might help explain some of his incredibly bad judgment. Yeah, if RFK Jr. is doing it, pretty decent chance. It is extremely unhealthy. I don't know. I guess he can do some push-ups and make himself feel manly. Because that really is what so much of this is about. Him and Hexeth, they just want to feel manly and gonna hurt a lot of people. Get so many people killed just because their masculinity is that fucking fragile. Some people should not have positions in government because they do not have the level of restraint and good judgment that it requires. Now, just step back off the soapbox. Yeah, very effective as they, everyone did survive the crash, which also, by the way, very nicely done. Great bit of stunt driving and just like holy shit. My friend Arts Cafe, who requested I cover the show, pointed out that season 5 has a much bigger budget than some of the earlier, and yeah, it really fucking shows. Jesus. But yeah, they all managed to crawl out of there, and yeah, they there's the thing about they Eugene, she tells him you're screwed either way, catch 22. um it's not enough if it's only 21 that you were able to catch. And yeah, you might as well try to help, which I do think is that's something we can apply to every day. Like we know that there's a lot of, yeah, I think I've made my point. So the one, there's that one zombie that's like trying to come in through the, and so she stabs it in the head and gets him a knife, and they stab a bunch. Great bit with the Maggie with the bayonet. Holy shit. And yeah, like Eugene tries, but he doesn't quite get the head, so the other one has to help finish that one off. And then this bit that I'm always I appreciate when media like this show violence in a realistic way, because as much as I do sometimes really appreciate watching media where the violence is handled in a way that is not super realistic, I do think it's great when this show and a bunch of David Cronenberg's work do, because like when Eugene has to pull out the knife, it takes a little bit of effort, and like I don't know this from experience, stop asking, but the yeah, I have heard that I forget which of the world wars, but one of them, um I guess just in case I should say one of the first two, because I feel like any day now Hegseth is going to start World War III. It's him or Trump. I don't. It's sometimes hard to tell who's making the decisions in the. So Trump sometimes seems confused about the policy that he has implemented. So it's like, which of them is making these decisions, and just getting him to sign something that he didn't read. Yeah. I don't know. The soapbox was so close by. Might as well. Yeah. The one of the world wars. I think it might have been like a general thing. Like you would stab someone with your bayonet, and then you would have to, like, let's say you stabbed an enemy soldier in the chest with your bayonet. The bayonet might have gone all the way in to the chest. And so what you would have to do is put one of your feet on the enemy's chest and really put effort into pulling the bayonet back out, So, yeah, it's one of those things. I'm sorry, but the first time I heard that, like, I was already anti-war and in general, like, pacifist, pass on the fists. Remember that movie? That movie was better than I thought it was going to be. Of course, I haven't watched it in 20 years. Maybe it doesn't hold up. Anyway, yeah, violence should always be a last resort in real life. Not saying never, but last resort. Stonewall was necessary, and it was necessary to fight the Nazis of World War II. But yeah, hearing that about bayonets and the what it takes to pull one back out of a human body really helped solidify my hatred of war and violence in general, So I think it can be a really great thing to have in media. Again, not saying it should be everywhere. Yeah. So they let's see. You have the yeah. So they're like, well, you're checking Eugene, and it's like, well, let's the med kits back in the let's see if we can't restore him to 100% health with the med kit, or potentially maybe there's some a food item or something. I'm sure we have a healing item, certainly. And yeah, I think it's Maggie who just barely gets said, I'll check what we have, and a fire starts. So I don't know. I guess burning gauze is what you have. And yeah, Eugene says it wouldn't be that far to walk back. And yeah, once, later in the episode, we hear that he's been lying this whole time, and that he sabotaged the bus. In fact, yeah, he wasn't making a, like, trying to deduce what makes most sense. He was trying to carry out his plan of getting them back to the church. And the yeah, in an earlier episode, there was, like, he in the church, he was like hesitant to give details, but he said something that sounded impressive, and there was this like pause and chuckle, and I appreciate that again, there are neurotypicals who might do the same, but sometimes when autistic people lie, they will have little tells like that, not being able to keep from like chuckling to, and just saying something that sounds impressive without, like, I've seen neurotypicals lie where they can have like a really detailed lie that sound, is more convincing. Where here, like, we realize that in retrospect, but like, shit, I did believe him. I was like just like the characters of the show, I so badly want there to be a cure or some kind of, yeah. Now, I think that does bring us to, but yeah, so they, you know, yeah, once their ride is busted, they, yeah, there's the discussion, and we have the thing with the let's see, yeah, um, Glenn asking Abraham, he's like, I need you cool. Are you cool? And he, he reaffirms, no, 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 listen, we are following you. You are in charge here. This is your barbecue and it tastes good. It's just that I need to be sure that you are level-headed right now. Don't rick out on me, okay? Is that unfair? A lot of the time, maybe most, Rick is level-headed. It just sometimes there's a slip up. Now, they end up they decide to proceed further, and they get to the was it a bookstore or a library? A building of books, certainly. And yeah, I mean, it's I'm not sure they have a better way to get water. Yeah. The yeah. So at least they do, boil it, so that helps. Um, that is an old school way. Like that is, there was a time when you had to boil water to be sure that there weren't no germs in there. And let's see, yeah. I think that might just about, but yeah, also clever way to, they find a metal waste paper basket, which means that it's not going to catch fire, and put enough paper in there. They put a couple of metal clothes hangers across, and then they can put the water on top. Very very clever. That works. And let's see, yeah, the part where Abraham is just standing at the window, and Glenn walks up, and he does the pause sign, and then the before leaving, but yeah, a zombie comes up and tries to. I do really appreciate the way that, yeah, like it can see food, so it's on a seafood diet. It sees food and it eats it, so it tries to like bite into the air, and it doesn't quite understand why it can't get to the food, and then it just like loses interest and moves on, understandably. Yeah, I think the yeah, Abraham TMI with Glenn. I like Glenn saying, okay, didn't need to know that. And let's see, I think that's when, yeah, so I appreciate the, you know, they film it in as tasteful way as they can. And yeah, Eugene watching them and rationalizing, it doesn't cause any harm, so why not? Which, yeah, I haven't met one that was peeping Tom, but there are autistic people who will try to rationalize if they want to do something that lies outside of social norms. Um, that is something you see. That autistic people sometimes go against social norms. Um, yeah, I think. Yeah, I like when so she yeah yeah the two of them basically like he's doing it, I don't know what are we gonna do about it. And yeah, he's standing there in the self-help section. Was this after the Colleen Ballinger book Self-Help came out? I'm not entirely sure when that was published. Hmm. She certainly has her share of really fucked up shit that she's said and done. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough ukuleles in the world for her to be able to do a fake apology, faux apology for all of them. Anyway, yeah, so, the other girl is like, hey, stop that. And, yeah, he rationalizes it and even says, I appreciate the visual of the female form. And she's like, I would love if we could just move on to another subject. Like that would just make my year. And yeah, she says you saved me at the bus. And he's like, well, I don't know, I've just followed your advice. That's also something I've seen. Some autistic people, if you thank them for something, they're gonna try to change the subject or say, "Ah, that wasn't that big of a deal," or stuff like that. Um, and then oh my god, and he says, "It's my fault the bus crashed," and of course, like she and we kind of assume, oh, he's being like, he's being too critical of himself, which is also something I've seen, and that again I appreciate is more or less universal. A lot of people are overly critical of themselves, but it's definitely something I've seen with autistic people to a greater degree than neurotypicals, in my experience. But then he explains, no, 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 like legit, I caused the bus to crash, which also, yeah, some autistic people will admit something that it's like, didn't need to know that. But yeah, she says, hey, listen, we're trying now. You made a mistake. You feel bad about it. Don't tell the others. And yeah, like, oh my god. At the time, I was thinking, if Abraham finds out, he's gonna be so fucking angry. And then by the end of the episode, it's so much worse. So wonderful bit of setup and payoff. Because it's one of those things. Like if they had just had Abraham find out about that, it wouldn't have had the same effect. You want, like American TV shows, they like to, for an episode, to leave you going out on a high emotion of some kind, happy, sad, something. So do something unexpected. Before the end of the episode, because after the end we wouldn't see it. But yeah, the yeah, and the Maggie and Glenn again trying to find a positive. It's like a mini vacation, um, and yeah, talking about is Rick okay, and you know can they determine that using their inner Rick knowing sense. But yeah, uh, and yeah, they talk about like Glenn is like, I know drinking toilet water isn't ideal. Haven't done that since high school. And we have the, let's see, I think, yeah. So the next morning, they are, what's the word? Yeah, there's the discussion about, maybe we should stay here today. Oh, right. Also, oh my God, yeah, we see them get a little bit of string, and yeah, then sewing up the hand, which also very nicely done on that, because he later, opens the wound when he punches Eugene. And yeah, it is this thing of like, there's blood on his hand in the flashbacks as well, and in the chunk of the episode. Sometimes it's his own. He mentioned, it happened in the church. Sometimes it's the blood of like zombies or the like, but ideally you'll want, like, having blood on your hands, like, that's not really where it goes. Ideally it stays inside of the body, whether it's yours or someone else's. Do not put someone else's blood in your body. Perhaps a doctor can do it for you, but don't try to do it yourself. Found that out the hard way. Yeah. He really struggles with, Abraham really can't let them not, and we have the thing about, Rosalita says, you really think I don't understand that after everything, and yeah, like, he doesn't really, he can't, like, this is his thing. He has a mission and he will do anything to accomplish it. And yeah, like, on some level he does think that he's kind of alone there, and yeah, we have the thing about, well, there's a car right there, which, like, yeah, um, they went from a bus fire to a fire truck, staying on brand. Quite appreciate that. But yeah, they, yeah, they drive for whole 2 seconds, and then he's like, he keeps saying damn, he's very frustrated. And the, yeah, again, we're seeing, and he, like, almost, like, he almost loses control when dealing with the zombies. It's good that I forget which of them, but one of the others was able to save him. Like, he almost gets surrounded, and he takes out a good chunk of them, but there's one that he didn't really pay attention to, because he's just releasing the frustration, the pent-up rage. And the, I guess this is a pretty decent time to talk about. So Eugene's lie, that is also, I think I've said what there was about the, when they lie. I want to underline, in my experience at least, they don't lie more. If anything, they lie less than neurotypicals. And the, shit, where was I going with that? Yes, I have definitely noticed, at least some of them do have, sort of like a fear of abandonment, fear of being alone, even though they struggle in social situations, Um, so yeah, that's also very nicely done on that. Yeah, let's see. There's the bit with, right, appreciate the H.G. Wells reference. But yeah, you have the, let's see. God damn, what was the other thing? You have the thingamajig. Right. So yeah. They kill a bunch of walkers. Also very nicely done on, yeah, we see one tire rolling, and that draws the eye to where the tire rolled from, and then a bunch of tires get knocked over, and yeah, the walkers come out, and yeah, let's see, I think it's Eugene who climbs on top, and the water. That was also, the thing about, there's 2,000 liters of water in that thing, and yeah, very effective, super effective, in fact, against the walkers. Holy shit, like, it knocks off heads and arms, and at one point it like sort of melts off the flesh. Holy, just fuck, that's so cool. God damn. Because yeah, they're rotting. Um, and yeah, it's said not long after the tank is empty, and the thing, he there was writing, sick inside, let them die, and Abraham cackles in a way that at first, like, until we realized it was because of the text, like, at first it did seem like, oh, is he okay? And then you have the what is the other word? We have the, yeah, yeah. So the thing about, you just have to clean the air filter, and Rosalita points out, that's the radiator though. And also the fact that it is specifically human fucking flesh inside the filter. Jesus Christ, that's fucked. Yeah, I think that might bring us to, right. Actually, I saw in the IMDb trivia, worth reading as usual for this episode, the what's the word? There is a shit. Where was I? The episode was almost censored, which, yeah, I can understand. The water cannon thing was probably a bit intense for, yeah. And I think that brings us to, let's see. Yeah. So yeah, they drive on the, yeah, fire engine, and then, there's the thing about, what is it? The wind's picking up, the smell will hit you momentarily, and yeah, huge bunch of walkers, and they're like, well, we can't spray them away with the water cannon. If we try to drive through them, that's going to slow us down. I'm not saying go home, I'm just saying take a detour. And Abraham really just cannot handle, because, like, in his mind, they're saying, we should just let Ellen and your two sons die. Like, who cares? What's the big deal? Like, he is catastrophizing. He's not thinking, like, because, like, the others point out, we're just talking about a detour, though. Like, it's that this, obviously we can take a detour. But yeah, in his mind, every moment that they're not, and also he, like, that's the thing. Throughout the episode, there keep being these obstacles. They are constantly running into issues there. So yeah, very, very nicely done on that. I think that might bring us to the, let's see. I feel like there's something else that I wanted to say. Yeah, the fact that Abraham, like, straight up pushes some of them to the ground, and Glenn does try, he this thing about, they're both very bad at, does this bug you? I'm not touching you. The Yeah, he touches him, and Abraham says, I told you to never touch me. Again, he clearly, there's some, he has it's an overreaction, because of a neurotic, yeah. But it's really well done because, like, yeah, Glenn has been following him for all this time, but he's like, no, 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 dude, this is the line. You cannot ask me to take the love of my life into that. There's no way. We have to find another way. And in all the shouting, eventually Eugene admits that he lied. He's not a scientist. I do like that he multiple times says, I am smarter than you. I'm smarter than most people. And that's also, I'm sorry. Again, I say it with love. I have heard autistic people, more than one, say that. So, yeah. And I mean, I'm sorry, but fair enough. Some of them are, like, ridiculously smart. It's like, there was a while where they weren't thought of very highly, but then, like, they started getting hired for, like, stuff where some of them are just, like, unbelievably good at math, for example. So they get a job where their ability with math makes them a better candidate for that job than, a neurotypical individual. Anyway, I think that brings us to the yeah. Where were we? Yeah. And just, like, the moment that he said it, like, two thoughts. I was like, oh no, like, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I was 100% on board. I really thought this was, and the second was, Abraham's not going to be okay with this. This is not going to go over well with him, and yeah, like, he straight up punches Eugene multiple times, and Eugene ends up, slamming his head against the, yeah, Jesus Christ. And yeah, I think there's some chance that he dies within minutes of the end of the episode. And yeah, like, Abraham, he ends up getting down on his knees. He's like, just, well, what now? What that, like, now he has no clear mission. He doesn't know what to do to make things better. And he just, yeah. And it is, like, in real life as well, there are a number of men, if they feel like what they're doing is endangering, or what someone else is doing is endangering their loved ones, they can make these really, they can take action that is very detrimental, and in some cases they end up alienating their loved ones because of it. Yeah, we definitely have to improve conditions around mental health for men, for everyone, really. And to be clear, I do acknowledge, like, minorities do have bigger problems than members of the majority. And some of it is just the culture around it. Like, too many young men just refuse to get therapy. There was that meme format for a while. Men will do blank instead of getting therapy. And I agree with Kyle Colgren about retiring that because, like, what was it he said? It was something about that, like, it makes it sound like therapy is, like, almost, God damn it, I do not remember his exact words, but I agreed with them when I heard them. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess they're maybe gonna have to just try to go back to, you know, I mean, they do have a functioning car. It's just that they can't, it doesn't make sense to proceed further. But I guess at least some of them will try to drive back to Rick and the others, but it's a real kick in the gut to find out that, yeah, and he said, well, I thought that in Washington it would be safer, and if I brought other people with, they would be safe there too. and he hasn't forgotten all the people who died to get him to as close to Washington as they are now. He rattles off the names, and he clearly does feel bad. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Really, really effective, an emotionally engaging episode. Just the emotional roller coaster. Some of the time they're so happy, and then other times the despair, and the way that Abraham just gradually gets closer and closer to where he ends up at the end, kneeling in just disbelief and feeling like, well, what can he even do now to help? So yeah. Um yeah, and just yeah, really, really amazing. Let's see. I think the yeah, that is everything about the episode. Yeah, just truly, God, I'm so glad to be watching this show. Um, yeah, I think that yeah, right. I was like that. Once he's just telling the truth about everything, he even told all of them about sabotaging the bus. Um, he doesn't really go into detail, but like once they realize that he's been lying about some things, and then he says, well, the truck, the bus, that was me. Like, there's stuff that could be done, and it is like one of those things because like they just fixed this up. Why would it crash? If someone then says, "Oh, I sabotaged it," like it's extremely credible. And he also says, I never met that guy. I forget the name. But I feel like he would probably like my hair. Just yeah. Um, God damn. Um, they're really, really good at just like making you yeah. Um, getting us to think it's going to the things are going to be okay, and then like just really fucking with yeah. I mean, Terminus was also a really big example of that, and the fact that eventually they had to abandon the farm. Yeah, these various things, just yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, emotional roller coaster. To paraphrase something else that Greg Nicotero worked on, um, the writing of the show just really sticks it in and breaks it off, doesn't it?